So last time I made Unrecord bodycam FPS mechanics using Unity in less than 48 hours, and today we're making Unrecord, but it's gonna be multiplayer. Anyway, I'll try to make this within 48 hours again, so wish me luck, especially because I've never done an online game before, so yeah. For that I'll be using my asset FPS Engine, but because it's not aimed at multiplayer games, we'll have to modify it. So without further ado, let's get into it. First, I made a simple loading screen and the main menu, so you can now create and join rooms. And whenever you start a new game, the player spawns at any of the 2 spawn points. I limited the room size to 2 players only because I didn't want this to be a messy free-for-all match, but rather something more tense, which I think suits Unrecord style a lot. If you're the host, you'll be in the blue team, and if you join after the room is created, you'll be part of the red team. And to display this, I didn't want to add any sort of UI element because Unrecord doesn't really use UI at all, so I just added a light on each spawn that represents the team color. Then I got into actual multiplayer, and as I said earlier, I've never done anything similar before, but luckily I could make the movement to sync across clients with no issue. Wait, what? Are you alright, mate? And it's also server-sided, which prevents from hackers to do their wacky things. But there was a big problem. Right now the player is a pair of hands literally floating in the air, and I believe that's not too realistic. Don't get me wrong, that's just my opinion. So I grabbed a new model from Miximo and I got some nice looking animations. We got a few for walking, running, jumping and even crouching. Something I noticed is that the full body arms don't really match the view model arms, but well, we don't talk about that. After that, everything started to feel super nice, and by the way, yes, I made a new full body system so you can now see your own legs. Well, kinda. After fixing that, everything was ready to move on to shooting mechanics, and here's where it all started to go downhill. After a bit of trial and error, I could manage to handle shooting and damaging across clients. It's very cool because you can also hear the shooting as effects if the enemy fires, so it's very easy to spot his location. Same with steps, I made it so the sound synchronized over the network to easily determine the position of the rival. I also worked on some visuals for the damage effect. At first, I intended not to display any UI, but I had a really hard time trying to realize if I was being hit or not, so yeah, I had to add it. I also made it so the lower your health is, the blurrier you'll see, and I added a death effect, which is essentially an animation of the camera so it looks like you are falling down or something. Thankfully, FPS Engine makes this so easy because there are events for many things and one of them is called On Death. Now, this might not be the best animation ever, but as I said last time, I'm not an animator. I was also kinda forced to add this little UI on the corner so you can see the amount of kills each player has. Otherwise, it was impossible to know how the game was going. Finally, I improved the graphics a bit by adding some fog and volumetric lighting, and it looks so good. At this point, the game was actually playable. You can now join a lobby with a friend and kill each other until any of you gets 5 kills. I didn't want to go too crazy with the game mode, especially because I didn't want to start adding unnecessary features, so I went for an easy game mode that I was sure I could finish within the time limit. I've been wanting to make and expand this for a while, but I had to study for university exams as well, which kinda sucks. So yeah, there's still a ton of work to do in this project, and there's definitely room for improvement and polishing, especially regarding the multiplayer part. Many people were asking for more content and especially multiplayer, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I got a lot of juicy content coming up, so stay tuned. Anyway, remember the FPS engine was used to make this, so there's a link in the description. Thank you so much and see you next time.